Hello friends, I CA Kamakshi Khandilwal welcome you all to my next session. Today I would be discussing about the provisions applicable to the transportation of goods by road, that is the GTA service, Goods Transport Agent Service. Before starting with the main topic, I would like to brief you about the background of the GTA service. As you know, that service tax is applicable on the GTA service. The levy of service tax on the goods transportation service has always remained a subject matter of uncertainty. Initially, Finance Act 1997 proposed to tax the service of road transportation, which was subsequently withdrawn after the nationwide strike. Thereafter, in Budget 2004, it was proposed to levy service tax on services provided by a goods transport agency in relation to transport of goods by road, vide Finance Act 2004 with effect from 10 September 2004. However, the levy was deferred till further notice again in view of protest by the transporters. The government thereafter constituted a committee to study the matter. Taking into account the recommendations of the committee, notification number 32 to 35/2004 service tax dated 3rd December 2004 were issued so as to effectively impose tax on the service of transport of goods by road with effect from 1st January 2005 under reverse charge basis. So how will it pan under GST? Under GST also, GTA service is covered under reverse charge. Entry number 2 of services under reverse charge provides that the following recipients are liable to pay tax under reverse charge on services provided or agreed to be provided by a goods transport agency in respect of transportation of the goods by road. First is any factory registered under or governed by the Factories Act 1948, any society registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860 or under any other law for the time being in force in any part of India. Third, any cooperative society established by or under any law. Fourth, any person registered under the CGST, SGST, UTGST Act. Any body corporate established by or under any law, any partnership firm, whether registered or not under any law, including association of persons. Lastly, the casual taxable person. Thus, a GTA shall be liable to pay tax only when the services are provided to an unregistered person. Rest, in all the cases, the service recipient shall be liable to pay tax on reverse charge basis. Now, what will happen to the inter-unit services of GTA? Inter-unit service means the service provided by one branch located in state A to another branch located in state B having the same PAN number. Under GST, even support services between different units located in different states, distinct persons under GST without any consideration are liable to GST. Suppose a GTA engaged solely in supplying goods transportation service, that is presumably a reverse charge supply, is operating in 2 states because of business requirements, and one unit is set up solely for providing administration, HR, accounts, etc. related services to the other unit. Then, as per entry number 2 of Schedule 1, provision of such support service even without consideration between distinct persons will be liable to GST, and taxable value shall be determined as per the valuation rules. Rule 2 has been prescribed for such a scenario, but there is one more rule, Rule 6 Sub-Rule 7. As per Rule 6 Sub-Rule 7, the value of taxable service provided by such class of service providers as may be notified by the government on the recommendation of council as referred to in entry 2 of Schedule 1 between distinct persons as referred to in section 25 other than those where input tax credit is not available under section 17 subsection 5 shall be deemed to be nil. Meaning thereby, if the government notifies any class of service providers, the inter-unit transfer of services between which shall be deemed to be nil. So, this provision exempts the services between units of notified service providers which are otherwise taxable as per entry 2 of schedule 1, that is supply of services between distinct persons, even if they are made without consideration. Till date, no such service has been notified. So, if government notifies GTA service under this, then there would be no tax on inter-unit services in the case of GTA. Now coming over to my next point, what is freight? Freight is the consideration charged for the transportation of goods or cargo, mail, documentation and unaccompanied vehicles. So goods may be transported on freight prepaid or freight collect basis. So if the freight is paid by the consignor as under CNF, that is cost and freight, and CIF terms, that is cost, insurance and freight, the goods remain the consignor's property until their delivery is taken by the consignee upon their arrival at the destination and payment of the consignor's invoice. And if the freight is paid by the consignee as under FOB terms, that is free on board, the goods become the consignee's property when handed over to the carrier, that is the transporter, against a bill of lading. So, on the basis of the type of freight, a GTA prepares its consignment note or bilty, whatever name called, in 3 ways. First is the paid bilty, second is the to be paid bilty, and third is the to pay bilty. Now coming over to the present structure, what is the present tax structure in the case of transportation of the goods by road? Services by the way of transportation of the goods by road are taxable only if the same is provided either by a goods transportation agency or a courier agency. Goods transport agency means any commercial concern which provides service in relation to the transportation of the goods by road and issues a consignment note by whatever name called. But there are certain exemptions to this service. First, like service provided by GTA of certain products like agricultural products, specified foodstuff, fertilizer, etc. Goods where the gross amount charged on consignments transported in a goods carriage does not exceed Rs 1500. Goods where the gross amount charged on an individual consignment transported in a goods carriage does not exceed Rs 750. Hiring of the vehicle by GTA for the transportation of goods. So now, in the GST regime, the same provisions are applicable as that of service tax. That is, the service of transportation of the goods by road is taxable only if the same is provided by a goods transportation agency or a courier agency. The following are the exemptions available to a GTA. First, service by the way of transport in a goods carriage of agricultural produce, goods where the gross amount charged for the transportation of goods on a consignment transported in a single carriage does not exceed 1500 rupees, goods where the gross amount charged for the transportation of all such goods for a single consignee does not exceed 750 rupees. Next, transportation of milk, salt and food grains including flour, pulses and rice, organic manure, newspapers or magazines registered with the Registrar of Newspapers, relief material meant for the victims of natural or man-made disasters, calamities, accidents or mishap, defense or military equipment, and hiring of vehicle by GTA for the transportation of goods. So, all the exemptions applicable in service tax have been continued in the GST regime also. Now, how to determine which type of GST should be charged on the transportation of the goods, like whether it should be CGST plus SGST or it should be IGST. So, chargeability of GST will depend on various aspects including customer registration status, place of supply, time of supply, nature of supply, that is interstate or intrastate. Briefly putting, if the location of the service provider and the place of supply are in the same state, then it would be termed as an intrastate supply chargeable to CGST and SGST, and if they are in different states, then it will be an interstate supply and it will be chargeable to integrated tax, that is IGST. The time of supply will determine the time when the tax has to be paid. Now coming over to the first point, that is the place of supply. If the service provider and the service recipient is within India, then the place of supply will be as follows. Whether the customer is registered, if yes, then the place of supply shall be the location of the customer, and if the customer is unregistered, then the place of supply shall be the location at which such goods are handed over for transportation. Now, what is the meaning of the location at which such goods are handed over for transportation? Such place shall be the place where the transfer of the possession of the goods happens from the consignor, that is who sends the goods to the transporter to get it delivered to the consignee. Second, if the provider or the recipient is located outside India, the place of supply will be as follows. Where either the location of the supplier or the location of the recipient is outside India, the place of supply of service of transportation of the goods by road other than by way of mail or courier shall be the place of destination of such goods. Let us understand these with the help of a few examples. First, the tax invoice or the consignment note within India for freight payment made by the consignor, that is, my service recipient is consignor, assuming that my service recipient is an individual and the location of the GTA, that is the goods transport agent, is located in Punjab. First scenario is my consignor is registered, the mode of freight payment is paid or to be billed at the time of booking. The movement of the goods is taking place from Punjab to Assam. So, my consignor is located in Punjab, my consignee is located in Assam. So, whether reverse charge is applicable, yes or no? Yes, reverse charge is applicable because my recipient consignor is registered. Now, the place of supply in the case of registered person shall be the location of such recipient. So, in my example, the consignor is situated in the place in the state of Punjab. So, my place of supply will be Punjab. Nature of supply. The nature of supply would be intrastate since the GTA is located in Punjab and the consignor is also located in Punjab. So, my nature of supply would be intrastate supply despite the fact that the movement of the goods is taking place from one state to another state. So, what are the applicable taxes? CGST plus SGST, and the GST shall be paid by the consignor. Next, the movement of the goods is taking place from Punjab to Punjab and the consignor is registered. So, the place of the consignee is also Punjab. Reverse charge is applicable. So, my place of supply would be Punjab. It would be termed to be as intrastate supply liable to CGST and SGST, and the GST shall be paid on such transaction by the consignor. Now, if the consignor is unregistered and the movement of the goods is taking place from Punjab to Assam, In this scenario, the consignor is located in Punjab, GTA is located in Punjab, and the consignee is located in Assam. So whether reverse charge is applicable? Reverse charge is not applicable since the GTA is providing services to an unregistered person. So in this scenario, the GTA shall be liable to pay tax under forward charge. Now, what would be my place of supply? According to the rules, if my recipient is unregistered, then the place of supply shall be the place from where the goods are handed over for the transportation. So in my example, the goods are handed over in the state of Punjab. So Punjab would be the place of supply, and accordingly, my nature of supply would be intrastate, that is CGST and SGST shall be applicable. And who shall be liable to pay the GST? It is the GTA. Now continuing with the same example, if the movement of the goods is taking place from Punjab to Punjab, then also it would be an intrastate supply. The place of supply would be Punjab and CGST and SGST would be applicable. So from this, I can draw a conclusion that if my service recipient is unregistered, then the place of supply shall always be the location of the GTA, that is the place from where the goods are handed over for transportation, and accordingly CGST plus SGST shall be applicable. Now coming over to the another example. In this, the freight payment is made by the consignee. So now my service recipient is the consignee. Now case 1 is where my consignee is registered and the mode of freight payment is to pay. The movement of the goods is taking place from Punjab to Assam. The location of the consignor is in Punjab. The location of the consignee is in Assam. Reverse charge is applicable since my service recipient is registered. So now what will be the place of supply? The place of supply shall be the location of the service recipient, and in case the freight is paid by consignee, consignee would be my service recipient which is located in the state of Assam. So my nature of supply would be interstate and IGST shall be applicable. And who shall be liable to pay the GST? It is the consignee. Now in case the movement of the goods is taking place within the same state, say Punjab to Punjab, then it would be an intrastate transaction and CGST and SGST shall be applicable. Now coming over to the third case, where my consignee is unregistered and the movement of the goods is taking place from Punjab to Assam. Now whether reverse charge is applicable? No, reverse charge is not applicable because my service recipient is unregistered. GTA shall be liable to pay the tax in such a scenario. Now what will be the place of supply? The place of supply shall be the location from where the goods are handed over for transportation, and the goods are handed over in the state of Punjab. So my place of supply becomes Punjab. My nature of supply becomes intrastate, even if the movement of the goods is taking place from one state to another state, and accordingly CGST and SGST shall be applicable. And who shall be liable to pay the GST to the government? It is the GTA. Now case 4, where the movement of the goods is taking place from Punjab to Punjab, it shall be an intrastate supply and CGST and SGST shall be applicable. Now coming over to the scenarios applicable in the case of export, that is where either the service provider or the service recipient is located outside India. In these scenarios, I am presuming that the GTA is located in the state of Delhi and the freight payment is to be made by the consignor. In case 1, the consignor is registered and the mode of freight payment is paid or to be billed at the time of booking. Now the movement of the goods is taking place from Delhi to Nepal. the location of the consignor is Delhi. The location of the consignee is Nepal. Whether reverse charge is applicable? No. Whether it would be treated as an export? The answer is no, because neither the service provider, that is GTA, nor the service recipient, that is my consignor, is situated outside India. So, in this scenario, even if the goods are moving from India to Nepal, then also this transaction would not be considered as an export for the purpose of the ascertaining the GST liability. This transaction would be considered as an intrastate transaction and it shall be liable to CGST and SGST, and the GST shall be paid by the consignor. Taking up another scenario where my consignor is unregistered and the mode of freight payment is paid or to be billed. Now the goods are moving from, say, from Delhi to Bhutan. So the location of the consignor is Delhi. The location of the consignee is Bhutan. Whether reverse charge applicable? No. Place of supply shall be Delhi. Nature of supply intrastate, and accordingly it shall be liable to CGST plus SGST. But in this scenario, the GTA shall be liable to pay the tax under forward charge since my service recipient is unregistered. Now, taking up another scenario where the freight payment is to be made by the consignee. So, in this case, my service recipient would always be unregistered. The mode of freight payment is to pay or to be billed at destination. The goods are moving from Delhi to Nepal. The location of the consignor is Delhi. The location of the consignee is Nepal. Whether reverse charge applicable? No. Whether it would be treated as an export transaction? In this scenario, yes, it will be treated as an export transaction because my service recipient, that is consignee, is situated outside India. So, my place of supply in this scenario would be Nepal, which is the destination of the goods. So, it would be treated as an interstate supply and IGST shall be applicable. The GTA can either opt to execute a bond and do not charge any taxes on transportation of the goods from India to Nepal. So, in this scenario, the GST shall be paid by the GTA himself. I hope I am clear to all on this. Now, moving over to the next provision. What will be the time of supply for a GTA under forward charge? According to section 13 of the CGST Act, the time of supply shall be the earliest of the date of invoice or the date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Let us understand this by taking up an example. Mr. A, an individual, an unregistered person, takes the services of ABC transporters for transporting goods from Delhi to UP on 1st June 2017. The date of issue of invoice is, say, 5th June 2017. Mr. A made payment to ABC transporters on 2nd June 2017. So now what will be the time of supply? As the services are provided to an unregistered person, the GTA shall be liable to pay GST under forward charge. Now the time of supply shall be the earliest of the date of invoice or the date of receipt of payment. Therefore, the time of supply in my example would be 2nd June 2017, that is the date of receipt of payment being the earliest of the two events. Now coming over to the value, what will be the value of the service on which GST shall be applicable, the value for the purpose of the GST shall be the transaction value, that is, the amount of freight charged together with any incidental charges like the labor charge, loading and unloading charge, custom clearance charge, etc. Now, will the recipient be eligible for the ITC for the GST paid under reverse charge on the GTA service? Yes, the recipient is eligible for ITC of the GST paid under reverse charge on the GTA service. Now, what will be the document on which the customer can avail such credit? The recipient can claim the input tax credit on the basis of the invoice or bilty or consignment by whatever name called issued by the GTA. The GTA needs to upload the invoice on GSTR 1 and the entry shall automatically be reflected in GSTR 2A of the service recipient. The service recipient can accept the entry in order to avail the credit. Now, whether the GTA is eligible for any input tax credit? No, the GTA is not eligible for any input tax credit because of the condition imposed by the government. Now, coming over to the rate of tax applicable on the logistics sector. The GST Council in its 14th meeting held recently finalized the following rates for various categories of services specifically applicable to the logistics sector. First is the Goods Transportation Agency in relation to the transport of the goods, whether household goods for personal use or other than household goods for personal use. The present service tax rate is 4.5%, no input tax credit of inputs, input services and capital goods allowed. The GST rate, the proposed GST rate is 5% with no ITC. Second is the transportation of the goods by a vessel. In this current service tax rate is 4.5% with no input tax credit of inputs and capital goods. That means the credit of input services is allowed. In GST, the rate of tax on the same is 5% with ITC of input services. Third is the transportation of the goods by rail. In this, the rate of service tax is 4.5% with no input tax credit of inputs and capital goods. In GST, the proposed rate is 5% with ITC of input services. So, as you may have observed, the tax incidence in relation to the services is not varying significantly in the new regime. Now, I have written here the tax rates applicable to the various industries in the logistics sector. The reason why I have highlighted these tax rates applicable for the transportation of the goods by road, transportation of the goods by vessel or railways or airlines is that the railways industries, airlines industries have been allowed the input tax credit of input services, but no such credit has been allowed for the GTA. The GTA are not at par with the other industries in the logistics sector. So, I fail to understand the discrimination why GTA is not at par with the other industries. In the logistics industry, there is a usual practice to render a slew of ancillary services along with the supply of main service in relation to the transportation of the goods by road, such as loading and unloading of the goods, packing, custom clearance, etc. It is a possibility that such supply may constitute a composite supply, being a natural bundle of service, with the transportation service being the principal supply. So, in such a case, these ancillary services could also be subject to GST at the rate applicable to the main service of the transportation of the goods, that is 5%. It is pertinent to note that these ancillary services separately may attract GST at the rate of 18%. However, determination of whether a transaction constitutes a mixed or a composite supply shall be contingent upon the terms of the contract and other relevant facts. Now coming over to another important topic, the provisions relating to e-way bill. E-way bill is required to be filled where the consignment value is more than 50,000 or both in the case of intrastate as well as interstate transactions. The primary responsibility to generate e-way bill is with the consignor or the consignee duly registered under the GST Act. Now cases where the transporter, that is the GTA, is required to generate the e-way bill is first, the consignor or the consignee is unregistered. In case of multiple consignments being transported in one conveyance, a consolidated e-way bill is required to be filled in form GST INS 2. Now what is multiple consignments? For example, a GTA has booked the order for the transportation of the goods from multiple recipients, like from Mr. A, B and C, and he is transporting the goods of all these different service recipients in a single goods carriage. So that will be termed as a multiple consignment, and for this purpose a consolidated e-way bill is required to be generated by the GTA. Third scenario can be for goods in transit. Transfer of goods from one conveyance to another conveyance in the course of transit. In this scenario also, the GTA is required to fill part B of GST INS 1. Let me take up an example to understand this scenario. ABC Traders, a registered dealer located in Maharashtra, agreed to make an outward supply of goods worth 75,000 to XYZ Traders, a registered dealer in Karnataka. To deliver the goods to XYZ Traders, ABC Traders handed over the goods to PQR transporters. Now, how will the e-way bill be generated and the movement of the goods takes place? First, ABC Traders hands over the goods to PQR transports for delivering it to XYZ Traders. ABC Traders furnishes the details of stock in part A and transporter details in part B of form GST INS 1 and will generate an e-way bill. On generation of the e-way bill, a unique e-way bill number EBN will be sent to ABC Traders, XYZ Traders and PQR Transports. The details of e-way bill will be sent to XYZ Traders for their acceptance at the time of the receipt of the goods. Now suppose, continuing with the above example, PQR Transports retains the goods at its Andhra Pradesh warehouse for more than the period of validity of the e-way bill. Now does the AP border warehouse required to generate its new e-way bill without doing anything for the previous e-way bill? In this case, since the GTA is transferring goods from one conveyance to another in the course of transit, then before such transfer, the GTA is required to generate a new e-way bill on the common portal by filling in the details in form GST INS 1, specifying therein the mode of transport before the goods leave the Andhra Pradesh warehouse. Now there can be one more scenario where the goods are booked up to 30th June 2017 and moved after 30th June 2017, that is in the GST regime. So whether e-way bill is required or not in such a scenario? In my opinion, the e-way bill will be required in such a scenario since the goods are moving post GST. Now what are the provisions relating to the cancellation of the e-way bill? The e-way bill may be cancelled when the goods are not being transported or not being transported as per the details furnished in the e-way bill. So in such scenarios, an e-way bill can be cancelled. Now what are the documents required to be carried by a transporter? He has to carry a copy of invoice or the bill of supply or delivery challan as the case may be, and the copy of the e-way bill or the e-way bill number. Where a vehicle is intercepted or detained for a period exceeding 30 minutes, then the transporter shall upload the information regarding the detention of the vehicle in Form GST INS 4. What is the validity period of the e-way bill? Where the distance is less than 100 kilometers, the e-way bill is valid for 1 day. Where the distance is 100 kilometers or more but less than 300 kilometers, it is valid for 3 days. Where the distance is 300 kilometers or more but less than 500 kilometers, the e-way bill is valid for 5 days. Where the distance is 500 kilometers or more but less than 1000 kilometers, it is valid for 10 days. And where the distance is 1000 kilometers or more, the e-way bill is valid for a period of 15 days. What are the provisions applicable for the filing of return for the GTA? The GTA is required to submit his details of outward supplies in Form GSTR 1 by 10th of every month, then the details of inward supplies in Form GSTR 2 by 15th of every month, then a monthly return and the payment of next tax liability in Form GSTR 3 by 20th of every month, and an annual return in Form GSTR 9 by 31st December of the next financial year. Lastly, coming over to the provisions relating to the invoicing issued by the GTA. According to the invoice rules, the biltee or the consignment note or the tax invoice issued by the GTA shall contain the gross weight of the consignment, the name of the consignor and the consignee, registration number of the goods carriage, which goods are transported, the details of the goods transported, details of the place of origin and destination, the GSTIN of the person liable for paying tax, whether as consignor, consignee or the goods transportation agency. Now let us have a look at the sample format of the consignment note or the tax invoice or the biltee to be issued by a GTA. So it should contain the name of the GTA, its GSTIN number, description of service, that is the goods transport agency, SAC code, then it should contain invoice number, booking date, the place of origin from and its state code, the place of destination to and its state code, the approximate distance, what shall be the expected arrival date of the goods, where the delivery is taking place from, the vehicle number, the details of the consignor and the consignee like its name, address and the GSTIN number, the description of the goods like the number of packages, its actual weight, charged weight, volume, rate per kg, along with its HSN code, certain charges like freight, fuel surcharge, FOB charge, labor charge, CN charge, pickup charges, door delivery charges, miscellaneous charges, etc. along with the details of tax, the SGST, CGST and IGST, and the gross total of the service, less any advance received, the total taxable value, then the GST has been paid by consignor, consignee, the GTA or it is exempt, whether the GST is paid under reverse charge, the nature of supply, whether it is intrastate, interstate or export. In the case of export, there must be an endorsement on the top of the consignment note stating that supply meant for export on the payment of IGST or supply under execution of bond without payment of IGST. So these are the particulars that are required to be captured in the consignment note. Then the GTA is required to issue a bill of supply in respect of service of transportation of goods which are exempt like milk, salt, etc. In this case, the entire particulars are the same except the tax to be charged, that is CGST, SGST or IGST, would not be mentioned in the consignment note. Lastly, the tax invoice or the bill of supply should be signed either manually or the digital signatures may be affixed on the consignment note. So this finishes up with all the provisions applicable to the transportation of the goods by road. Hope you all found the content useful. In case if you have any queries, you can email me the same at my mail ID. Thank you. Have a nice day.